Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk with your host, Tony Cañas. And today I have with me Nicos Vekiarides from Attestiv. Try to say that whole thing 3 times fast if you can here. I've been practicing here for the last 10 minutes. I still can't get it right. So Nicos, CEO of Attestiv. I think I got it right this time, Attestiv. Thank you for joining us today. How are you doing?
Doing well, all things considered, doing very well. Things are going well. Yeah, sorry about the tongue twister there.
No problem. The how are you doing question has become a tricky question lately. We're recording on May 13, kind of in the heart of the coronavirus quarantine. Although some states have opened, and it is weird to say, "Oh, I'm doing great," right? When there's just carnage. And especially economically, it's such a mess outside. But I'm glad you're doing well, and you're in Boston, according to your LinkedIn. So how is Boston holding up with the crisis?
Yeah, I mean we're I guess we're one of the hot spots. We're outside of Boston in Natick, so a little bit of the suburbia there, a little bit more open air. So, we do get outdoors, but, I feel like it's been the same way across the board for most, most of the U.S. here is we're in quarantine. It's definitely changed things the past few weeks, but, in a way it's changed things back to our early days, before we got in office.
That's right. For insurtech, the startups and technology companies, this is an easy transition, right? Like many, I bet many insurtechs of the smaller variety don't have an office yet, right? You're just used to the whole remote work.
Yeah, it makes you reconsider these things too. Is hey, if we can get 80% of the work done without an office, then or maybe 90% of the work done without, how much do we really need that?
I think a lot of small companies are gonna realize that, and even medium-sized companies will realize that they didn't need as much of an office as they thought they did. So I think we're definitely going in that direction. So I'm according to your LinkedIn, Attestiv has been around for almost 2 years. So congrats, that makes you a survivor in the insurtech world.
Thank you.
Right, and what is Attestiv? Okay, what's kind of the elevator pitch in your own words?
Yeah, so we provide authenticities for photos, media, and digital data. So authenticity, meaning that it's become possible, and a lot of tools have started to proliferate for ways for people to alter digital media, photos, videos. Well, the Photoshops have been around for a long time, but videos with deepfakes, you probably heard about deepfakes, particularly in the social media circles. Well, it's possible to use AI to create these photos and videos that are very difficult to detect. So any company that really relies on photos and videos, or any organization that relies on photos and videos to make actionable decisions, needs to start thinking about measures that they can take in order to prevent this from leading to fraud or reputational harm or other bad things. And what we've done is we've developed a platform that does exactly that. And what it does is, beyond the fact of the fraud reduction, it also helps accelerate digital transformations. Now you can do things with confidence, such as, really go broader on self-service, right? Because if I have a platform that weeds out the fraud, increases trust, now I can implement these things that are particularly relevant during a time like COVID-19, where everything needs to be touchless.
Yeah, and I'm assuming most carriers right now don't have field adjusters out looking at claims, and field adjusters are expensive either way, right? It doesn't make sense to use them for all claims anyway.
That's right, and if you rely on self-service, the more self-service you have, it's sort of, you sometimes go in different directions, right? It's sort of digital transformation says, let's do more self-service, and sometimes it's not just about the cost savings and speed. Sometimes it's a better customer experience. Hey, can you take a couple of photos instead of sending someone to your house where you still have to schedule this whole thing?
So as the client, if I have an accident and I call my carrier, and they say send me some pictures, you know, the pictures of the four sides of the car, or whatever, do I have to take them with your app, or is it invisible to the client? How does that piece work?
It's a web app, so everybody has one of these mobile phones these days, and it's a very sophisticated platform. But you just literally send a link, and it's branded, so it doesn't say Attestiv on it. It'll say the insurance carrier. We sell to agencies as well, so the agency has a logo. So they simply say, you know, first notice of loss. Well, we'll send you a link, or they hang the link on their website and say, click on this link from your mobile phone, and that just prompts you through the workflow to take photos. We have a self-service auto quote as well that we've got a demo video on our website, which is very interesting.
Oh, so basically, like, you take the pictures and it creates you said quote makes me think of the sales part of insurance.
Yeah, sort of the underwriting side and the claim side is where we focus. And what's interesting there is, so what happens technology wise, you know, what we do is when we capture photos, we commit a fingerprint of the photo that captures the content of the photo, and also all of the metadata, the location and the timestamp, and anything else that we can gather out. Some of it, you know, connecting regarding this particular claim or quote. So we create this fingerprint. It goes on a blockchain, and once it's stored on the blockchain, it becomes immutable. So the characteristic of blockchain we care about most is it's very, very difficult to alter. So now you can't go back and alter. You can't Photoshop the photos. The location is recorded there. If you happen to be in the wrong house taking photos of house damage, we'll know right away that you're in the wrong place. So it eliminates a lot of this fraud, but also introduces a new opportunity. So there have been a lot of studies done about, let's go to automobiles, pre-existing damage, right? And sometimes there's hundreds of millions of dollars. There was a study in New York done a couple of years ago, hundreds of millions of dollars in pre-existing damage in auto. So my team developed an auto quote where essentially it just says, well, we'll ask a couple of extras. We said, well, we'll ask people a couple of extra questions, take 4 photos of the vehicle. So now we have a baseline and we know what we're insuring. But then I said to my team, I said, yeah, but you know, in order for this to work, we have to take away something, because we just made the application process longer by 4 photos. So let's take a few things away. So then my team got to work and they said, okay, we figured out how to scan the license in 1 click, scan your registration in 1 click, and also scan your policy coverage page in 1 click and pre-populate it into the application. So instead of you know, taking away 4 steps that we put in, they took away about 50 steps. So it can be pretty impressive what you can do with our technology combined with sort of the state of the art.
Okay, and so from the client perspective, so from the carrier perspective, if I'm, you know, State Auto or whoever just happened to be the first carrier that came to my mind, how do you plug into my stuff, or how do I plug into your? How does the integration work? Because integration is a nightmare, IT-wise, in our industry.
Yeah, it really is. So we have web apps which work everywhere. We have mobile apps, but you know, a lot of carriers. When we get to the carrier level, when we talk to agencies and MGAs, you know, it's easy for them to grab our stuff. When we talk to carriers, it comes down to APIs. And, you know, sometimes it's a lot of work to, you know, you don't necessarily have a lot of developers just, I don't know, sharpening their pencils and ready to start, you know, integrating with you. So, you know, how do you make this? And then it kind of comes down to some of the differences in the insurance industry, right? My background's not the insurance industry. So, you know, a POC in other industries mean you can do a whole lot of things, and people, you know, will help you integrate. And in this case, you know, it needs to be a little bit more frictionless. and not necessarily create any risk, right? So we have two. There's sort of a front end and a back end to our product. And the front end is you can integrate all of these APIs, and then we have this back end, which essentially is a forensic analysis. So your existing photo assets, will take them through a forensic analysis and determine if they've been altered in any way, without having to plug into all of your existing processes and change anything. So even though, and the end game is we want to get us in your front end, we can plug right into your back end, just point us to a repository and we'll tell you what kind of fraud that we are seeing.
How big is, I mean, I'm very aware of how big the problem of fraud is within overall insurance. And I think the number is something like it costs the average family like $3,000 in extra premium between their home and their auto every year. Like it's pretty big. How like once you plug into a carrier, are they like blown away by the amount of pictures you're catching and how you're helping them defend themselves?
Well, that's an interesting question. It's a longer term process. It's sort of like, it would be nice if, you can't measure it in days, right? Day 1, day 2, day 3. It has to be measured in months and years. So that's the tricky part. But on the other hand, they're aware that there's fraud occurring. So besides the anecdotal reports that I hear, which is of hey, I know someone who happened to Photoshop the repair on their house, right, and got a check, which is fraud. But it's there are a lot of cases where it's out there, so we can apply this technology, and then the real pitch is this is a growing problem. Every day you're relying more and more on these digital assets. And we're just, what we provide is sort of this foundational platform so you can continue to build and expand your digital strategy with confidence.
Okay. Who is the client at the carrier? Is it the head of claims? Is it the SIU department? So that, like, who brings you in generally?
Yeah, I mean, generally we've started with the entire insurance. So we started across the entire insurance ecosystem. So typically, claims is an interesting space because a lot of carriers outsource that piece. So sometimes you can't even have a conversation about claims. But there are other parts such as inspections, right, where we look at, hey, how can we do this? In a self-service manner, but in a self-service manner that's trusted and doesn't open you to more fraud. So oftentimes we go in on that way. So for instance, one of your former guests, Paul Gagliotti at Harbor AI, we're working with them together on commercial inspections because this is a place where you can save money, create differentiation, and also reduce fraud. I mean, you don't want to be in a position where you have a bad understanding or you don't understand the commercial customer that you're insuring.
And you mentioned earlier, so you don't come from insurance. I was looking at your LinkedIn earlier, and you're a tech guy, and not only a tech guy, you're a tech guy with MIT undergrad and Carnegie Mellon masters. So basically, you're one of the most educated people within insurance. We're not an industry of Ivy League students for the most part. How in this tech career, how did it hit you that oh, you know what, I'm gonna go serve insurance?
Well, look, I appreciate the compliment, but I'm learning more every day than I did at my last job. So it's that kind of gives you an indication that. I think, when education ends, it's sort of the rest of your life and what you do kicks in. And it's really, you learn every day. It is a different, it's really a different industry. I mean, the things that people are concerned about is, some of the first things I've heard are sort of if it doesn't improve my loss ratio, if it doesn't decrease my cost or increase my revenue, I don't want to hear about your technology, right?
Well, right. If you put yourself in their shoes, like you said, it's a very unique industry, right? We are basically, I would say, the only industry, the only business where we don't know the cost of goods sold when we sell you a policy, right? We know that in the aggregate, the actuaries say that we'll be fine, law of large numbers, but we really don't know the cost, how much this particular policy will cost us. So it's a really weird business. And then we have incredible technical debt, right? Our systems are, and we're way old and expensive to run, and we're investing billions at larger carriers, hundreds of billions of smaller carriers, at getting the technology to somewhere near where it needs to be. So, and at the same time, the industry has gotten super competitive, especially things like personal lines auto has gotten super competitive in the last 20, 30 years. So basically, every carrier is under pressure for expenses and for technology. So yeah, I get it. If you can't lower my expenses, like I can't afford it, right? Or if you can't increase the so yeah, it's a difficult industry. But how did you, like, how did the idea hit you? Oh, this would be useful for insurance.
Yeah, I mean, so one of our co-founding team, so myself and my CTO, we started the last two companies, and then we also have a third co-founder who's had experience in the insurance space. So when we pulled this whole idea together, so my background was IT storage. It's enterprise IT, so at least it has some parallel with the customers I'm working with, right? We know what the enterprise needs. There's a lot of privacy, security requirements to get in, and so forth. What we did is we started, we built, we came up with, well, we didn't build it. We came up with this solution based on our prior career was in IT data storage. We did cloud storage, and before that we did storage virtualization. And now we said, we just had the idea that, hey, a lot of what we're storing, we really can't attest to the value of, right? It's kind of garbage in, garbage out. So let's build something that helps, give you some information about the authenticity of data. And we started saying, yeah, there's a lot of use for that as, public safety, surveillance. And then Mark, one of our co-founders also happened to have an insurance background. And he said, well, geez, insurance. And we started taking it from there, and we said, wow, there's so much that's being moved into digital, and so much fraud. I mean, the number, as you said, is astronomical. 40 billion P&C fraud in the U.S. alone. That's sort of what led us to this industry, and we said, wow, there's really an opportunity here. And we also, one of our investors is Plug and Play. And they have a huge insurtech practice, and that kind of brought us in front of a lot of the insurance players. So it's been a very interesting journey, but that's really what took us here. And initially we came up with this thought, because everything, you kind of transform your solution over time. At first we said, yeah, everybody's being tech guys and say, yeah, everybody's gonna grab our APIs and solutions and then deploy them. And then we came up with our back-end solution, which said, after about a week of that, we said, hey, you know what? A lot of these people aren't gonna adopt our solution right away. How can we provide something of value that's less, that causes less friction? And that's where we said, hey, we can both prevent and we can detect. It's sort of the, I guess a bad analogy to the state we're in now is sort of the immunization versus the treatment, right? It's a lot costlier to have to go all the way into the treatment phase and figure out how can we treat this versus, hey, if we can just make you immune to it, that's even better. So that's our long-term vision, is we'll make everybody immune by using our platform. But in the short term, a lot of times is, let's go in there tactically and find any places where you are susceptible or you've experienced some media fraud in the past.
Gotcha. So did you go through the Plug and Play Accelerator?
We are part of the plugin.
Oh,
So
you're
we're part
currently.
of batch 8.
Oh,
So
that's right.
we are doing it right now. It's
Hey, Paul,
you know,
Paul is
it's a
also.
little, it's a great program, and they've moved to all virtual. So
Yeah, doing it all virtual. I mean, good
yeah,
for them for being able to flip the switch and move it to all virtual.
yeah.
Um,
Not does it lose a little bit of its edge? Yeah, I mean, it seems like a lot of these discussions are face to face, and sometimes that's how you develop that trust. So yeah, you lose a little bit of that. I mean, thankfully we have Zoom and 10 other brands of video conferencing that I have on my desktop here. But it'll be good when, will also be good once, the economy gets back on its feet and the country gets back on its feet and we can, be a little bit more active in person.
can you hear me?
Yeah, I lost you for a second.
Okay. Yeah. So basically the headset has a dual Bluetooth.
Oh.
So it's connected at the same time to the computer and the iPad. And basically, it told me iPad disconnected, and so when it's telling me that, it disconnects me from you, right? So anyway, I turn off Bluetooth on the iPad. So shouldn't be a problem from here on. Okay, so going through the accelerator right now virtually.
Yes.
I'm assuming are you guys already deployed with any carriers, or you're very much in the still building those relationships phase?
We're in the POC phases with some carriers, and then we're in the with agencies. Just again, we sell to smaller business agencies and MGAs. We're
Easier to get in.
along. So we're in production with some agencies. We have some adjusters using our adjuster product already in production. So sort of. We started off there, and now we're focused heavily on the carriers.
Okay, there's been a lot of discussion about blockchain within the insurance and insurtech space. A lot of this sounds. I have no a lot of this sounds. What the hell does it do, right? And then okay, I kind of halfway get what it does. Is there an actual use case within insurance? Is there somewhere in insurance where it's already being used? So how did you guys decide to build it on a blockchain? Is it a distributed blockchain or with all the clients, or is it a centralized blockchain? Like how did that process go?
Yeah, so I think one of the things we learned just from my last company is because we were working with cloud providers, and suddenly we saw a faction go off to Microsoft, a faction go off to Amazon, a faction go off to Google and others, and we said, oh gosh, how do you work with all? Well, I guess you have to support all of them. So that was sort of the idea. Is we started off with this blockchain agnostic idea, is that there's ledgers that are built through consortiums for insurance. So there's RiskStream here in the U.S. There's public ledgers that some will use. I mean, for our product, ledger serves a purpose. There can be many distributed ledgers that exist. But the thing is, I don't want, when I come into a meeting, I don't want people to look at my LinkedIn profile and say, oh, no, here's an MIT guy coming to talk to me about blockchain. No, please, no. And quite frankly, it also puts us on a different trajectory if we lead with blockchain. So I'll say that. So, if we lead with blockchain solutions are us, we might be on a 10-year trajectory, which is not very good for our business. Because the reality is we can solve problems today. So instead of, facing the blockchain issue, what we say is, hey, we're ledger agnostic. So if you're part of a consortium, we'll work with that. Heck, in the short term for a POC, we can connect to a database, but there's a lot of value to the ledger, the distributed ledger, because you get a consensus model. So So you're immune to the data changing. So you're immune to this fraud. And a lot of times, I mean, I'm not saying it happens this way in insurance, but there's an internal threat as well, the insider threat, right? If somebody from the insurance carrier decides to change data, well, how would you know? Well, with a distributed ledger, it doesn't matter who you are. You still need a consensus of all of the nodes in order to make a single change of the data. So it's very powerful that way. So we pitch this as ledger neutral. We try not to lead, and in many cases, heck, if we're talking to agencies, we kind of leave the ledger piece on the back burner because what do these people want to know about ledger? They just want to know that they can do their job easier, that they have these self-service apps for their clients that makes it easier, and that they can do a lot of their work on times like this without having to step into their office. So that's really where our ability to help them comes in, and it comes down to the business proposition again. Is can I help you cut costs? Can I help you with your loss ratios? Can I help you with improving your revenues? Because maybe if I can give you a quote, an auto quote that only takes 2 minutes. Now you don't have to worry when you're sitting watching a football game that everybody's going to go to Geico or whoever else who says, we can do this in 15 minutes. Maybe it's nice to know that you can do this in 3 minutes.
Absolutely. What advice you've been in this insurtech game for a couple of years? But you've got a significant tech career prior to that. So what advice do you have for the next founder in the insurtech world? The next kid, who's a tech kid or has an idea for how to improve the industry. What should they know?
Well, it's really sticking to the principles of what the insurance business cares about, right? I mean, I think, having done this a few times as a tech founder, you say, sometimes you can wow people with the technology and get a sale out of that, right? And it doesn't work that way at all here, right? It's to enter the insurance space, you really have to have a good grasp or educate yourself really quick. I mean, that's the thing. At the end of the day, it doesn't take you that long to understand, but you have to talk to people, understand, where they're coming from, understand how a risk-averse client would work, as opposed to, we have innovation teams in the insurtechs too, who may be less risk-averse, but you're going to hit that wall regardless, which is, what will it cost me? What are the benefits? And how does this help the fundamental metrics of my business?
Risk averse is the name of the game and the key word in our world. This is a conservative, risk averse industry staffed by risk averse people. Which it's funny because managing risk is what we do, right? As an industry.
But still just the same. There's so much opportunity for digital transformation right now, and I think that's what presents itself, and whether it's being able to leverage self-service or IoT or drones. I mean, there's just so much opportunity out there, and for us, we just want to be the platform that helps coordinate it and ensure that you don't get fraud into your system. And as you expand and you build out these transformation initiatives, our goal is to be that indispensable and key platform that sits in the background and helps protect your business from these losses and fraud.
The firewall.
Exactly. It's
I like
it applies to the security industry, and there's new threats that have emerged, and we can help restore some order to the world of digital media.
Excellent. I like it. And there's not a lot, right? There's, I don't know, about 2,000 insurtechs out there, but so many of them are focused on how to make on the distribution piece. There's not a lot at all focused on the fraud side. So I think there's definitely a space for what you guys are doing, and I like the fact that you can plug into my systems as a carrier or as an MGA or as in different ways, right? That it can be front end or it can be back end, digging into the photos that I have in the system that we're processing right now. So I like the approach.
And sometimes the other insurtechs are our clients, which is great, right? So we are, we're working with other companies who are, like Harbor. We're working with other companies that are bringing new technologies and disrupting the industries, and we become a way to, I guess, disrupt more loudly or protect that disruption from fraud entering the system.
Well, the good news there is they are all API ready.
Yeah.
No COBOL and Fortran and duct tape needed to interface with them.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I mean, it's been 20 years since I started my first company, and we were like it. And in the prior company, we were working with mainframes, even though begrudgingly working with mainframes in the late 90s. Like, oh, it's awful. And then, but then here we are. We're back to, well, how do we make it all work with all these systems?
So this is awesome. So back in the late 90s, you're dealing with mainframes, and you're like, why? Right now, you're running an insurtech. You're like, I'm so glad I have that mainframe experience. Like, that is really valuable now.
Exactly. It's become, it was no laughing matter then. It's no laughing matter now. I mean, it's always our story. We can't, unless you're, unless you're doing something just consumery. But if you're in a B2B space, enterprise space, that they're always there. Mainframes, AS400s, whatever. They don't go away.
Literally AS400s. We're making progress in little by little replacing them. But holy, it's hard.
Well, they're just very reliable systems, and that's the problem. Is you can't just replace them with a system that crashes every few weeks. It's like, and that, I think that's been their longevity. But you get to the point where people, you can't even find a person in the company sometimes who knows how to interface properly to it.
That is a common problem in the carrier world. Is, holy crap, all of the COBOL and Fortran programmers have retired, and the new kids coming out of school don't program those languages. No, I've seen carriers hire computer science majors and put them in class for 6 months to teach them COBOL and Fortran. And it's expensive, right? And that's not what anybody goes to computer science, to school today. That's not what they want to do. So you're not going to keep them for long. We need to finish ripping that Band-Aid.
I sympathize, but it's probably not going away anytime soon.
So this is the part of the show where we kind of move a little bit into the how do I put it, the productivity side. Mm-hmm. We're always curious. What tools do you use to keep yourself productive? I mean, especially now you're going through an accelerator, doing it virtually, running the company. Like, you've got a lot of plates in the air. How do you keep yourself and your staff productive?
Yeah, it's tough. It's challenging. I think one of the things that I've always done is task lists, and I use software for that sometimes. But Trello here and there and others. But on the other hand, one of the things that I try to do is always try to keep my task list for the day short, so up to 5 items per day. And the reason being is you want to end the day with a sense of some accomplishment. And if you take your list of 30 or whatever things that you might do every day, you always end the day with, man, I'm so behind. So that's sort of it, and it can be really simple. I still want to use one of these ancient planner things, and that helps a lot. The other thing is, now shifting back into this work from home, it makes it very difficult for the day to end and very difficult to put break. Yeah, I don't have anybody to schedule breaks in my schedule between all of this Zooming, right? So what do you do? So someone from my team set up a happy hour at 5 p.m. every day, where and the rules are, we're not going to talk about work items. So we get the team together for 30 minutes and they just talk about other things. But it's nice. It breaks up the day. Really, I Slack more. I'm on LinkedIn more. I'm doing all these things, but that doesn't help my mental health or ability to kind of think outside the box and think clearly. So you have to find other things. And that's really the challenge, is getting that getting that home gym or whatever. Today I went jogging with the dog, which is good. It's a great way to take a break and make sure you focus on other things beyond just the work. Again, you can do 80% or 90% of the work, and of course it's very difficult to draw boundaries on when to begin and end your day, right? It could be a 24-hour thing, and I think that's what matters most right now, is kind of finding ways to balance that.
Yes, I agree with that completely. If you're not used to working remote, it's very easy to get swallowed,
Right.
and not separate and just work a lot more, and the more you work, the less productive you're actually being. So Nicos, for any listeners that are interested in your technology and wanna reach out, what's the best? I'll include a link to the company website and to your LinkedIn. What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, I'm always on LinkedIn, so that's a great way to get a hold of me, is through LinkedIn. I typically respond within a few hours, so I check multiple times a day. So it's that's sort of the social network that I'm most frequently on. I use Twitter as well, but that can be a whole jumble, and I have yet to find a good sort of way to follow insurtech on Twitter, just because I guess you can, maybe I have to rethink who I follow, but it is tough to unravel that one. But LinkedIn is great, and certainly if you want to reach me, there's also info@attestiv.com, which if you want to learn more about us and the company and our solutions, that works great as well.
Excellent. I think it sounds like a great solution for the SIU side of our industry, and I'm glad that there are insurtechs out there focusing on that often forgotten but very important blocking and tackling. So yeah, awesome. I look forward to see how you guys grow coming out of Plug and Play. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and I look forward to coming back in the future and catching up.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony.